benchmark experiment. We submit live prediction targets to our participating servers. We only access automated servers in the pre-automated way. We get our targets from the PDB as we can details. So yeah, on such a date, the PDB pre-releases the sequence and legal composition of the targets that we released on the next Wednesday. And that means that we have a 4-day window where we can actually conduct an experiment when no one knows the target structure yet. And so we select a set of non-redundant and interesting prediction targets from this set, and we submit it to our participants. And they have until Wednesday, so actually Tuesday evening, almost Wednesday morning, to return their prediction. Perhaps we also have a quality assessment category, which is going on with the first structure predictions that have been recorded on the Sunday. So typically our targets are a bit easier than CASP targets because we don't have almost 100 hard targets each week in the delivery event accountability for that. And so at the end, once the PDB releases the structure, we have also a pre-automated evaluation of the results. We intend not to provide a ranking of the results. We just provide the scores, and then it's up to analyze the different scores. We then provide a publication of scores to develop this analysis. And 2 years ago, we basically were starting to think what when we do moving forward, because of course simply printing 3D structural secret chains was no longer the next frontier, and we identified the next frontiers in this field and decided to focus on protein complexes and ligands first. From the PDB pre-release, we can also assess maybe later on not-canonical residues and nucleic acids. And in the last 2 years, we've been developing these two top types of targets in the new category, which is beta. And actually, registrations are open. So if you have a server that didn't predict protein complexes or ligands, please get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to illustrate that. Xavier prediction target is a biological assembly of a macromolecule from the PDB. What does that mean? So I selected a few targets, so types of targets that you could receive as a Xavier antecedent. Of course, you can receive a single protein sequence of a monomer protein like this. And by the way, these are all structures that have been resolved in the PDB last week, so I actually had to look at what kind of interesting structures were there. So yeah, monomer protein still there. You can also receive a single protein sequence, but it turns out that it's a homo-oligomer with, in this case, I think it's a homo-8mer that you also have to assemble into a complete protein complex. You can also receive a heteromeric protein complex composed here of 4 proteins. They can end up being quite large. As you can see, we have 4 viral capsids and things like this. They can contain DNA, RNA, and they can also contain ligands, as I will show in a minute. In order to find interesting and non-dependent targets for Xavier, we have a free automated workflow that clusters the redundancy. We look at sequence identity and cluster for sequence identity for polymer sequences. And then, because we're interested in targets, we look at complexes in the pre-release that share the same sets of secret sequences that have been clustered together. And those hold the first level of clusters. And then the host for ligand targets, because these protein or DNA clusters, they can contain different ligands. And so we're still interested in getting different submissions for ligands in the ligand combination. So we have an additional clustering of the complexes with the ligands. And then we select interesting targets. We don't have much time to look at them. So it's also pretty automated. We write last of the individual chains, and then we look for templates that overlap across all the chains. In there's no templates covering all the proteins of the complex, then we call it a novel complex. It's a complex that has never been seen in the kidney before. These are very interesting. But most of it, there is actually some homology and some coverage, and we end up having some medium and hard targets based on the class results. Then we assign labels as interesting targets. If there's a template that covers all the entities of the proteins with at least 85% sequence identity and some basic culprit, we call it easy. It's already been sorted with the PDB basically. So we wouldn't submit that for protein probably. And the other, if it's not the case, then we specify the culprit as medium or hard. And in addition, for the easy targets, we look at the ligand composition, and here it's the same. If the ligand composition differs from the existing templates in the we think it's an interesting target for modeling of the ligands, and we label it with the labeled ligands. And these three labels here, they form a flexible opt-in. When you register for server, you can select what type of targets do you want to get. Can you model ligands? Then you will select the ligands. Otherwise, you can get medium or hard targets. That's up to you as you register. The challenges once you receive the submissions is so the first challenge that we have in interview is to predict the stoichiometry. We don't get the stoichiometry from the PDD, so that's the first thing you need to do. If you go to that yet with your prediction server, you can start by just predicting one of each entity as a starting point. That will do well in many cases and let you actually start participating. Then you need to model the full context, including the pose of the ligands, if there are any ligands. And we need to return your predictions in MFC for PDD formats. And if you have ligands, you can return them in SDF or the new format that we implemented for CASP this time. So I'm going to go a little bit more in details with some of the targets that I've shown before. And again, these are more targets that have been newly submitted last week by Camille. So if you were a Camille participant, you would have received this target books back 7x Xavier. We classified it as a hard target because we identified low coverage templates with large parts of the protein which are basically still unknown. And it turns out it's a monomer, so quite straightforward here. It also contains the ligand which the server can predict the position of the sequence. So yeah, that's a monomer. You would also have received another sequence of 7V0F, which is actually a low oligomer. In this case, it was also a hard target, and not by fairly remote homologs, but far enough that we would say it's not a completely trivial sequence. It contained a few ligands as well, so that's another type of secret sequence targets. If your server is able to bottle to handle more than one sequence or more than one protein at a time, we would have submitted you this hetero-oligomer complex 70F1. It's a large complex ability classification. Large buying homologs, but actually not of the individual. It finds pretty close homologs of the individual mods, but none covers the word complex. And so that's a very interesting prediction target as well. If you will have registered for medium targets, you will have got this one. It's 7R2E. That's a heterodimer. Homologs of the complex for the complex exist. For instance, there's the 305. But they are less than 85% sequence identity, so we think either that or no coverage. So we think it's still kind of not only the trivial prediction target we see with the SMA results I think tomorrow, if that's actually the case, or if it's actually easy. Yeah, so that's the next kind of targets. And so if you are registered to the ligand for the ligand labels, you would have received this one, 8X5, which has detected with a 100% sequence identity in the PDB. So this protein has already been solved, but this PDB actually also contains the ligand OKU, which is it's just actually a macrocycle, and this is a completely novel ligand. It's never been seen in the PDB before, and so we think that because of that, this is a very interesting target for ligand prediction, and we submitted that to the participants. Specifically, we would appreciate the SMART code of these two ligands. There's another ligand here which is as interesting, but you would have received in these two SMART code. And in reality, you wouldn't have received only this entry here, because it turns out it's part of a series of 3 identical PDB entries with the same protein but different ligands. They're all macrocycles, but if you look closely, there are some slight differences in the ligands, and all of these ligands are actually novel. They've never been seen in the PDB before, and so in reality, you would have received these 3 prediction targets for prediction. Finally, if your server, in addition to being able to predict the pose of ligands, is also able to predict multiple proteins, so assembly protein complexes, you would have received 8E5B, which also templates to the PDB with a 100% sequence identity that actually covers all the chains. So again, it's a fairly easy protein prediction target, but it contains again an interesting ligand, WG6, which you probably can't see very well. It doesn't matter. It's a small molecule, and again, it's never been seen in the PDB before. And we think it's very interesting to see if participants are either to place this thing. Once we receive the predictions back, we need to compare them with the actual targets, and for that we have a few scores that we already implemented, and that cover basically the different kind of aspects that you want to look at. First, you want to look at the accuracy of the protein prediction set. We do that with the oligo-identity score, and which is able to identify correctly, incorrectly, or even missing predictions. We're interested in the interfaces, proper prediction of the interface. For that, we have a QS score. And when there are ligands, we're interested in the binding sites with the NDS score, which looks specifically at the binding site only. And we are also interested in the ligand pose itself, its occurrence, and we have 2 scores, the RNST and NDTPLI, which I'm going to describe now. First, and this is actually fairly new, it's also a score that we've used in the ligand category for CASP. So the pose RNST, what we do is we have the targets and the model with the ligand so well. The first thing that we do is to identify the binding sites. We use a 4 electrons radius around the ligand. In the targets, we also identify the binding sites, model, same residues, and we superpose that. And once we superpose them, we calculate the symmetry corrected RMSD. Symmetry corrected so that it accounts for attentive placement of equivalent atoms, the loops that can actually rotate the atoms of the same developing the parts of the loop or parts of the ligand that can rotate. And for that, we use graph isomorphisms. The second score that we have developed is NDTPLI, which looks at protein-ligand interaction. So it's a variation of the NLD score that you probably all know by now, which looks at contact conservation. But this variation considers contacts between the ligands and the protein or nucleic acid chain. So protein-ligand interaction. It has some parameters, binding sites, radius, and inclusion radius. A few caveats. No penalty is set for added contacts. So if you over-predict and add one more residue in the binding site, that's penalized. And it also quickly goes down to 0 if the ligand is predicted too far from the binding site, basically beyond the issue of the radius. I will go into more details about how we score ligands in ligand categories. So if you're interested, don't miss on Monday at 11:20 the ligand protein complexes talk by Pat. We talked with it all about scoring. So there's all scores to go into this data category. The score, CAT score, so scores from the CAP fibrillity and the Q, as well as model confidence. So what's the work in progress, basically? Where are we with this new category? We can select targets. We have a flexible opt-in system. We did submit targets with a flexible limit of the number of targets for participating servers that cannot handle a potentially unlimited number of submissions. And we can collect predictions and score protein complexes. What we're working on actively right now is the collection and scoring of the ligands, and this is in collaboration with CASP, accepting the predictions in the same format as CASP has, and scoring is on the way. And so future work, we need to work on getting additional scores, and as well as showing results in so web interface as they are for the current 3D category. Right now, you can download the scores already, but that's not very user-friendly. And we will looking further on once this is page to transition current 3D servers into what is now on beta category to help the maintainer of the future. Also nucleic acids for some time later. So if you can do any of this, if you're interested, feel free to get in touch with me to register your servers. Having a web server is very useful. It gives everyone easy access to your prediction methods. Really with no prior knowledge at all. It's also good for reproducibility and open science. For you participating in Xavier, you have some benefits as well. You benefit from continuous benchmarking every week. You'll have new data coming in. That's a lot of targets to collect data from, and that can help you prepare for the next CASP. You can also register developer servers which are anonymized, and that allows you to benchmark new features as we implement them, and immediately in just a few weeks get an idea of is this working or not. So feel free to contact us on this email address, help@xavier3d@unibas.ch, or like I said, xavier3d.com. I'd like to thank a lot of people and of course all the Cameo participants which make this experiment possible week after week since now more than 10 years. And the PDP which makes available each week and also week after week with the pre-release and gives us the opportunity to conduct this experiment, as well as the Spede group and Jürgen Haas with the one started this Cameo experiments over 10 years ago. And if you want to know more, please go to poster 5 tomorrow on Sunday at the first poster session at 2:30. I'd be happy to answer all of your questions. And I don't have time for questions, so I'm going to the next speakers.
Do we know if we got our next speaker? We do? But maybe we've got time for a couple of questions first. Yeah. Follow over there. And can you repeat the questions, please? Because
Yes,
I lost.
So, in CASP, they split all the products into the domains, and you do not. Do you think it makes difference, or have you? So, in Xavier, we are typically focusing in the identity score. So that's the main score, the pre-feature. It's identity. It's in the implement of domain splitting. We cannot consider domain splitting really. It's as you've seen and really described, it's a very manual process, and we cannot do that. So we think that's fully automated is the way to go. And so yeah, I believe that that's it.
I have a question. Can me? Yeah. So first of all, this is my first time on CASP. So hello, I'm Mansim. And so I actually am wondering, like, if it is possible somehow. So I've seen that Camel organize all this assessment based on easy, medium, and hard. But is it possible to somehow retrieve information related to some biological function? For example, if I'd like to know how this predictor actually are good on solving, for example, the transmembrane protein, something like that, and trying to get, some sort of results for that. Is possible to do?
So there's several ways to look at it. We have a variety of scores, and they show different aspects of the structure prediction. I know that we have participants which are really good at predicting binding sites, for instance, and maybe not so good at predicting overall protein shape. So just with that, people really start. If you have some more specific ideas, something really specific that you want to look at, you can always download what the data that did mention, but of course, or what the data is available for download. You can download it and run any score that you're interested in. And if you think that's an interesting score that we should have in TPO because it's an interesting function, and I'm gonna put that. Yeah. Because if you think it's interesting, then just get in touch with us. We'd be happy to discuss this. We don't really have function and scores there, just because it's so difficult to do automatically. What does that even mean? So that is not really something we have.
There's time for one more question. Yeah.
Do you ever check the biological assemblies to see if the offers have the positive downsides?
No, as of that, I might have to check a few, but we have 20 targets in the med category and reach. I don't really have time to look at all of them individually. So I basically trust the ability on that, which is of course a potential limitation of the.
Yes. How do you if offer as a tetramer and a predictor as a dimer? Do you assess that dimer relative?
Yes, so typically with only one entity, if you predicted 2 of the 4 chains on that the assembly had, you would basically start with a score of 50%. And we will assess the 2 chains